Hi, welcome to the Connected Veterans Program webinar, God's Love We Deliver. Today's webinar is Battle Buddies, which is all about identifying our support systems and preventing and resolving conflict with them whenever they arise. I wanted to introduce the two people that will be leading this for you today. My name is Peyton. I am our Behavioral Health Program Administrator here at God's Love We Deliver, and I also work with Devino on the Connected Veterans Program.
Hi, my name is Davino. I am the Military Veteran Community Outreach Associate here at God's Love We Deliver, and also a member of the New Jersey Army National Guard. Have been serving for 6 years with one combat deployment and multiple stateside missions.
Awesome. And then I have our emails and our phone numbers here if you wanted to reach out for anything. Before we even begin, if you have any questions about God's Love We Deliver or your meals, your engagement on the program, or any need for services, you can email either of us at connected@glwd.org or use these phone numbers listed here. So today's agenda, what we're going to cover, today we'll be defining what a battle buddy is. We will discuss the importance of having supportive relationships in your life. We will identify some risks of conflict and ways to prevent conflict from arising. And then, let's say it does happen, we will cover recognizing it and resolving conflict. And then we will go over just a few examples before we wrap up. I wanted to start with a quote, like I usually do. This quote is: "The simple act of caring is heroic." And this really just makes you think about our battle buddies, which we'll define next, but somebody who really cares about you and our role when we care for others. That is an act of heroism. That is something that we do that is selfless, that is giving, that is generous, and a heroic act. And Edward was an actor, and his father, he was the caregiver for his father, and he left his career in acting, very successful career, to caretake for his father in the last 10 years of his father's life. So he has really power in his words when he says this. You know, he felt that he was humble, but being a hero to his father, who was his battle buddy in many ways.
So, our mission statement for the Connected program, our mission at God's Love We Deliver is to improve the health and well-being of those living with severe physical and or mental health illnesses by alleviating hunger and malnutrition. Within the Connected program, we tailor meals and nutrition services to veteran diagnoses and needs, while also supporting their holistic wellness through veteran-specific behavioral health education, skill building, and community level programming.
Thank you, Devino. So this is just a good reminder of this webinar being an example of what we do here on the Connect program. While we are also, of course, under God's Love We Deliver and we provide meals for veterans, we also are working on wellness programming, socializing opportunities, and behavioral health support for those who are enrolled in our program. So this is part of this today. So we're going to start with defining what a battle buddy is.
So, for many of us who have served, we are familiar with the term battle buddy. For those who are not, um, battle buddy is defined as a designated partner assigned to look out for another soldier or a Marine, for safety, accountability, and mental health, both on and off duty. A battle buddy is mainly assigned to you during basic training for the period of time that you are there. Um, for the period of time that you are there to become a civilian, a soldier, or a Marine. But once you transition from training to your unit, a battle buddy becomes someone who is not typically assigned to you, but someone you can grow with and bond and build a bond with. A battle buddy sits through the darkest moments with you. They're also there for you when you become a first-time parent, on your wedding day, and the person becomes a family member. But for some, once they leave the military, finding a battle buddy is hard. And not all civilians understand the trials and tribulations that a military member have endured. For many, our new battle buddy becomes for many, our new battle buddies are our wives, husbands, kids, and even grandkids. The purpose of the Battle Buddy system is to build community, grow with friends, and to find someone to depend on. As people, we thrive in community. No matter what you enjoy doing, there's a community for you. The goal of today's webinar is to provide helpful tools on how to grow within community and continue to strengthen the relationship you have with your battle buddies.
I love that. Thank you. So, like Devino said, a battle buddy is a term that we pulled from time in service, but we wanted to figure out how can you apply that same concept out of combat, right? When you're home, you've transitioned back, you're in civilian life, you still need that same support. You still need that sense of safety, accountability, well-being, community, just like Devino said, in your day-to-day life. And somebody might be just checking in on you. They might stay close by, or they might be assisting you daily, hands-on. That might be your battle buddy. It can look like a variety of things, but the heart of it stays the same, which is that we all need somebody in our corner, caring for us, on our team, supporting us, and keeping us safe. And this might be, a hard idea. You might be sitting here watching this thinking, I'm not sure who my battle buddy is. I'm not sure if I have one. And that's okay. It can be hard to identify. It's hard to look at our own lives from an outside perspective. But it also might be something that we can work on getting you, right? You might be able to find a battle buddy, make some changes or to some decisions that lead you closer to that sense of community. So some easy ones are friend, family member, or neighbor. These are very common. These might be people who see you more regularly, who maybe you've known a long time. Again, like Devino said, this could be a family member, someone you were raised with, a child that you had, or a parent of yours, or somebody who lives right next door. Maybe they help bring in your mail for you. They knock on your door if they don't hear anything from you for a while. That's a battle buddy. Then there are some other examples, something like peers. And you might be like, what's the difference between a peer and a friend? Which is a good question. But peer might be someone that you're in a support group with or you share an identity with. So that might be more like somebody who goes to your same church or somebody who's in your same support group, or maybe somebody that you served with, right? That might look a little different than a friendship, but you met because you were part of some same community. You were part of some same group in a peer group. And if you don't have that and you're thinking about it, a support group is a great way to start. That is based on identity. You could find one from being a veteran, you could find one from potentially your illness, your age, right? Even your location. There are always support groups out there. So reach out if you're seeing this and you are wanting some help finding one. Same thing goes for the other two forms of battle buddy. A therapist or a social worker is a great example, right? They aren't somebody who could really see you every day, but they are somebody who gets to know you very well and is fighting for you and the things that are important to you, like your health, your well being. So, your therapist or your social worker is somebody that you can find through different agencies. We can help you find one who is able to listen to you and help you find things to help you every day, like keep you safer, or right, maybe your therapist or social worker helps get you an aid, which is what we'll talk about next. Somebody like a home health aide or a home attendant. These are people you might see multiple days a week, maybe every day a week, depending on your situation, for a few hours or more hours, that is there to help take care of you, help you cook, to help you clean, to help you with some daily tasks. As you get older, or depending on your diagnosis, this might be a free resource available to you. So always reach out again if you're interested in these services. We can help you know where to look to find them. But an aide is somebody that really is your battle buddy, right? They're getting you through a hard time. Any of these examples are people who are, in a battle with you and they are fighting with you as your support system. And why is this particularly important for veterans, right? Of course, all people need support, all people need community. Um, that is something that's very important for me to be saying to you guys working in the field that we do. But it's actually really important for veterans, particularly too. And that's really because veterans have undergone certain experiences that make it harder to relate to other people, especially in civilian life. And so you have to overcome those barriers. We have to know that those barriers are there, and then we can push past them to make sure that we are still prioritizing connecting with other people. So, first, something to note about why veterans might have a harder time finding this battle buddy outside of service is the Operation Security or OPSEC. This idea essentially that what you're doing during your time in service needs to remain confidential, or you have to refrain from communicating to certain people or about certain things. You might be able to talk in some ways, but you can't discuss ongoing topics, even to people you really trust or your really close loved ones, right? So the things that are really happening to you day to day, maybe some things that are weighing on you while you're there, you might not be allowed to communicate. And that can really teach you to bottle things up, keep it inside, be isolated from other people. I was never a veteran, I was never in the service, but I've worked in social service and we operate under security laws there too, where there are certain things, right, that I'm not allowed to ever tell people in other parts of my life. So, as a social worker, I had 70, 80 clients that are very important to me, people I know very well, people I see weekly, right? But nobody in my life, my friends or my family, my battle buddies, they don't get to hear about those people. Those two worlds never get to come together. And I was challenged with that at many times, thinking, having a client who's in a really bad situation, and I might have had a really hard day working with them, and I don't get to come home and tell people I know about it because it's secret, it's confidential, right? You respect the dignity of that. And that's just a small example of what is much bigger experience for our veterans and for our people, our service members. So this is one thing that teaches you to kind of remain isolated and hold quiet on hard times. Same as difficulty in transition. So, transitioning in deployment or in a return from deployment, or transitioning into service or back into civilian life, you're meeting all these different expectations, right? This is huge. You're acting differently, you're dressing differently. Maybe you're not able to do your favorite hobbies, you're not able to see the people you care about. And then the same goes when you transition back, right? All these connections you've had, these people you've been around, you don't see anymore. Your daily routine looks different. And that difficulty in transition just really throws us off our balance, and it makes us hard to know, who we can trust, who do we go to? Because that person might look different than it did 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. Third, this idea that others just don't understand. coming coming off an experience as being a veteran, you might face judgment, questioning, or you feel misunderstood from people who just truly don't know what you experienced, and they don't know what questions to ask, and you might not feel like taking the effort. It might be exhausting even to explain to them about your experience, and so you just stay quiet and you don't really talk about this part of your life that was really unique, and it was real to you, and it was something that needs to be shared with others, that needs to be met in community. And that kind of ties into the fourth and final one we're going to talk about, which is the effects of service on your emotional and psychological well-being. So some of the hardships as a service member can really linger with you even when your service is done. They might still be weighing on your mind or on your heart. Things you saw, things you experienced, right? People you knew or people you lost. Those things really stay with you, and it can make you feel withdrawn. Because again, maybe others don't understand. You don't want to tell people your heart stories, or maybe you don't want to think on them either. And so you keep it withdrawn. So all of these are examples, again, socializing and having community, having a go-to person is important for everybody. That is, we'll talk about some of the benefits, but those benefits
Felt
are
by
felt by
everybody.
everybody, no matter who you are. But veterans face an especially interesting and specific challenge to overcome these barriers to connecting with others.
Those are some great points. Um, an example recently, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of potential clients and clients in this position. And an example of a battle buddy situation that I came across was a 84-year-old who used to serve in the army, and his neighbor was the one who contacted us about starting the meals for him because the way she explained it is if anyone ever asks him about his military service or brings up his military service, he denies it. He doesn't feel comfortable talking to anyone about it except to her. And luckily, they known each other since they were children. So now he no longer has any family members around, and she no longer has any family members around. So they live in the same building, and she always makes sure that she checks on him every single morning. She brings him dinner and amongst all those other things. So that relationship right there is a pure example of a battle buddy. They both need each other as a support system, whether it's to talk to each other or just to um feed each other and give each other food. At the end of the day, the importance of a battle buddy, not everybody is going to understand. That's one. And every conversation or every memory is not meant to be shared with everyone. But if you have that one person that you can solely trust and confide in, take the opportunity to do that and grow with your battle buddy.
I love that, Devino. Thank you for sharing that. And it really makes me think about the start of God's Love We Deliver back in the 80s, which was a neighbor helping a neighbor. An example of a battle buddy right there. And what Devino's saying is so true, how deep this goes. And maybe this takes a minute for you to look at your own life and think, who is this person for me? Because you might have somebody there already. And what is making this so important, right? Why do we keep saying this is important? This is something everyone needs. Well, it is truly good for you, mind, body, spirit, soul. It is promoting your cognitive health. It's making your brain work harder, work faster, work more efficiently to have a person close to you. It can lower your blood pressure and heal your wounds quicker. That is incredible. It has physical effects. It helps prevent memory loss. The more you talk with people, you're engaging all of these different firings in your brain, and it helps your memory last longer into life, right? As we get older, naturally, all of our memories slip a little, and it helps us keep our memory alive, right? Keep our cognitive health going. It reduces behavioral and mental health symptoms like stress or anxiety or sadness, loneliness, those types of things. If you have depressive or anxious symptoms, this helps reduce those. It holds us accountable to our goals, right? That's somebody to check in on you to help get you where you want to go, maybe physically, maybe more metaphorically. And it's also someone to participate in activities with us, which makes things more fun. This is somebody to spend time with. This is somebody to, um, maybe go on adventures with, whether that's sitting out on the porch for a few minutes or that's going on a walk or going out somewhere, right? Maybe they are willing to make an effort. Maybe they have a car. Maybe they have a place they like to go that they want to show you, right? This is somebody to just have some fun with and spend some time with. And overall, it helps us live longer and enjoy the life that we do live in a deeper way. So it lengthens your life and it improves your quality of life, which are just incredible effects to something that in idea sounds really simple. So if you need some convincing, here are some reasons. But then, of course, like any relationship, you might have some conflict that arises, especially if this is a friend or a family member or someone you've known a long time. We always say, like, with your family, you might fight a lot, right? You might love someone, you don't always have to like them. These types of things are just referencing these natural issues in relationships that come up where maybe you're disagreeing on something or you say something hurtful or something hurtful is said to you and you don't quite know where to go. And conflict is, it's risky. It happens, but it's risky. Just like the opposite of a battle buddy, conflict lowers our confidence. It worsens our symptoms of anxiety and depression. It makes us feel isolated, no longer connected to people. It increases our stress that causes us physical pain. It heightens your blood pressure and it weakens your immune system so you're more susceptible to getting sick. And it gives you conflicting thoughts, right? Maybe in your brain, it's like, what do I do? What do I say? Conflict is really stressful. And so this battle buddy relationship is super important to us, but we want to make sure that it stays that way so that we keep reaping the benefits. We want our relationship to be supportive and not full of conflict. Can we go back?
So for this slide, I would simply recommend if you and your battle buddy are having conflicts as far as communication, just address how it makes you uncomfortable. I understand it is very natural for a lot of veterans to just hold everything in and just work through uh work through it and just ignore it and leave it in the back of your head. But at the end of the day, if you don't address an uncomfortable situation, it builds unwanted animosity towards the person. And one, that's not fair to them. And second, it's not fair to you. So make sure you address the situation, but find a positive balance on how you address it. Don't just confront the person with conflict as far as, hey, I feel like you made me feel this way, blah, blah, blah. Or you can simply address it and say, hey, there's something that's just been bothering me lately, and I want to talk about it. So there's a difference between addressing someone with conflict or addressing someone in a positive way so they could receive it better.
Very true. Devino's leading us perfectly into the direction we are going, which is about vulnerability and addressing conflict as it arises. That's perfect. But first, maybe how do we even stop it from getting there? Well, there are four easy ideas. You can have some outside support that gives you someone else to talk to, someone else to relate to, and it prevents you over depending on one person or vice versa. So again, this might be easier said than done, but think about, if you know you've got your one good person, think about even adding a little more socialization to your life so that you don't over depend on each other. Just like Devino said, address small things before they bubble over. Address something small before it builds up too big where it's suddenly way too daunting to then address it, right? If you say a snarky comment, something that you don't mean to have sounded like it did, address it right then and there before you guys get time to both sit on it and worry about it or make it feel awkward. Like that's what conflict does to us. Third, you can set your boundaries and respect them, right? With your battle buddy, they care about you, they want to get to know you. So you're okay to tell them topics that are difficult, things you don't want help with, right? Whatever your boundaries look like. I prefer to do this alone. Or, I don't like to talk about this. And it's okay if your boundaries change over time, but set them and respect them and try to notice what other people's boundaries are and respect those too. And you might find that you're actually having conflict way less often. And then finally, establish routines together. Routines are very powerful. If you want to hear more about routines, we have multiple webinars on this website about them. But that's something even small like sharing a meal, right? Sharing a God's love meal is a great example. Or, something sweet or sitting down at the same time every day or sharing a show you like together. A routine's a great way to spend time together. Make sure you are giving somebody attention, but you're also managing your own independence as well. And some examples of shared activities that you might want to build into your routine: music, getting outside, playing games, and reading. What I like about these activities, I mean, I enjoy all of these personally too. But what I like about these is that they're pretty inclusive, right? You can do most of these sitting down. You can do a lot of these for very cheap or for free. And you can also have a little fun with it. You can listen to the type of music you like. And maybe you have CDs or you have records, or you have a phone you can play off a streaming site, or you can always go to youtube.com, and on there you'll be able to find free music, free videos to watch. Look up your favorite song on there, see what you find. Getting outside can be as easy as opening a window, getting some fresh air, or taking a stroll, going to a park, doing something active. Playing games, that can be something that you do right on a board game shared over a table together, or you can play those online. We have another webinar about Tetris, a very fun game online. That might be something to try with somebody. And then finally, reading the paper, reading the news, or reading your favorite books, getting a new book, right? A lot of the libraries are free. Sometimes they'll deliver books to you. Always call in again if you're looking for resources, but these are really inclusive things to do that are fun to share with somebody. Okay. Now we are at the heart of this webinar, which is resolving conflict when it's come up. So let's say you tried to prevent it, right? But things happen. We misspeak, somebody misspeaks, we have a disagreement, we don't see eye to eye, and now conflict is here. What do we do? First, we are going to pause and reflect it. When we act out of passion, oftentimes we say things that we don't always mean. We might speak out of anger or desperation or sadness, and that can make us hurtful or rash. So, first, we want to pause and just reflect on what happened. Try to recognize in your mind in a few seconds, where did this start? What do I know is happening? And as you're reflecting, move on to the second thing, which is to recognize someone's emotions, not their words. This does not mean that somebody has permission to say whatever they want to you or vice versa. Our words are important. We should be careful with them. But oftentimes, when we're speaking and we say something hurtful, it's because of the emotion we're feeling, not that we actually mean those words. So somebody might be feeling hurt. And if you hear their words and you think, that's so, you don't usually speak to me like that, pause, reflect, and recognize their emotion and say, you know what? They're feeling a little isolated. That's where that's coming from. Or maybe they're feeling angry with me or they're feeling disrespected. And a lot of times it's someone feeling lonely. And then immediately try to find the common ground, right? This looks very different depending on what your conflict is, but maybe you're going back and forth about something in the home. Maybe this is someone that you live with or someone that comes into your home often, and you're talking about the state of the home. Where your common ground is that you share that space. Your common ground is that you both have an investment in that home being, livable, clean, movable, good for you, right? Whatever that looks like. There's always a common ground. And a lot of times your common ground is your relationship and your love for one another, that you both want to be there for one another, even through the hard times. And when we focus on that common ground, it's often much easier to resolve conflicts. And as we begin to talk through this conflict, you've already paused, you've recognized their emotion and your common ground. Make sure you keep your tone calm and you try to listen actively. If we are over speaking to somebody, right, they don't get to say what they want to say, they won't feel satisfied. And if we let our tone go, up, big, loud, suddenly we're yelling over somebody, and that's not very productive either. Keep your tone calm, keep listening. And then let's try to use I statements, not you statements. This is one of my favorite hacks to improve your life. So, an I statement is about you and what you're feeling rather than a you. When we do conflict with somebody, right, we are so quick to jump to you. If Devino and I are, going back and forth about something, I might say, you never do this, or you always do this, or you didn't do blank, right? Because that's how I'm feeling. I'm looking at him. We're having conflict about something. But in reality, it's so much more productive to say what I'm feeling. Suddenly now I'm not blaming Devino, I'm not accusing him, and I'm not being defensive. I'm communicating how I'm feeling, even if his actions, right, in this scenario did have something to do with it. So a good structure for this is to say, I feel blank when blank because blank, right? It sounds like a lot, but you get into the flow. I feel like this when this happens because blank. And you might find that it's actually a really good window to being really vulnerable with somebody and honest. And you might overcome all of the hard parts of conflict and jump right to the resolution when you communicate how you're feeling. And something to remember when you're having a conflict and you're trying to work through it is that if there's a winner, that usually means there was a loser. And nobody wants to lose the conflict. In fact, when you find that common ground, there should be no one who's closer to winning or someone who's losing. You don't want to feel like you've won. You don't want to feel like you've lost because you should have resolved it together. So if you ever find that you're starting to feel like, I'm not winning this or I am winning this, take a pause and reflect and recognize, that's not what's going to resolve the conflict. What's going to resolve the conflict is honest communication and going back and forth without a power structure there. So some examples before we wrap up. We're going to transform blaming statements into productive statements. So, just like I said about the house, maybe that's a source of conflict. If you were anything like me and my family, this would be a source of conflict. So, you never clean the house, right? That's a very easy thing to say. Like, you didn't do the dishes, you never helped clean. That is, though, even if it might be kind of true, it's blaming, right? It's blaming it, pointing the finger. And you have to recognize that your common ground is the house and wanting the house to be livable. So the productive way to say that would be, I feel overwhelmed when the house is messy because then I have to clean it. And suddenly the other person gets to hear how you're feeling and they can recognize that their actions have played a part in making you feel overwhelmed. Another example is stop doing that, right? I don't know what this could be about. This could be about a million things. Stop doing that. But it's not very direct and it might be kind of firm and somebody might not like to be corrected like that. But instead, you could say, I feel worried when you do that because I don't want you to get hurt. Or I feel angry when you do that, even though I've said not to, because I don't feel like you respect me, right? Those are some examples of things that you can say to reveal how you're feeling and not just quick correct someone and maybe start some conflict. And then finally, you never visit me or call me. You don't care about me. You don't care about me. And this is a really interesting one because when we think about recognizing emotion rather than words, the emotions here I feel are quite easy to recognize. You never visit me or call me. You don't care about me. This is somebody who's lonely. This is somebody who wants connection and feels maybe neglected from the person that they're talking to. And when you recognize that emotion, it becomes much easier to resolve this conflict. And maybe instead of you don't care about me or you don't help me, you don't call me, you say, I feel lonely when you don't call me because I like to hear from you. I feel scared being alone. I feel, sad when I don't have you to talk to. Those are really easy ways to transform statement one into statement two. And you might find that you're resolving conflict much, much easier.
So ultimately, your battle buddy is someone that you have to be vulnerable with. Allow them to share their weaknesses as well. They're just not a person that's gonna be there to just simply receive everything that you have going on. Open that space and give them the space to be vulnerable as well, and vice versa. So, in order for you guys to grow within your battle buddy system, you have to allow each other to give each other that space to grow as a person.
Wonderful. And that is the end of our webinar today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Again, like we've said, please email us with any sort of needs. We are here to help you. The email is connected@glwd.org. And I hope you had some takeaway from this webinar. And if you did, get out there, keep those connections going. It is so good for your health. And don't be afraid of conflict. We know how to resolve it. You have the tools that you need, and there is support out there. Thank you so much.